new spy tech, and the global depopulation agenda pushed forward by Bill Gates. Up next on Fringianity. What is your opinion of the world today? And what does this Bible have to say? Fringianity. Welcome to the show. Now, before I start the show, I just want to point out a few things. This show is a show that talks about fringe topics with a Christian point of view. So if that offends you, please turn it off now, and you don't have to be offended. Okay, I'm back after, it's been like 4 months probably. I don't know, it's been a while. I don't know, a lot of things, just, I've been away, just kind of, working, living, and just, doing the same old thing, just kind of moving forward. And I just haven't had any, I haven't had any energy to feel like I wanted to do the show. Or I just didn't feel like it was going anywhere, and a lot of my ideas of the show, it seems like it doesn't. I don't know. I personally, I'll put it this way: I wish that more people would comment or share the show or do more interaction. I guess it just feels like I'm doing this show in a vacuum, and sometimes it's hard to want to continue doing something if you feel like you're just talking to yourself in an echo chamber, I'm just being honest. I mean, that's really kind of how I feel sometimes about this, and I don't know, I've been kind of like, I guess, spiritually dry lately, like kind of drained, I guess. I don't know, feeling like I'm just not really doing anything, like it's not changing anyone's life to do a podcast, or I'm not doing anything that matters, And I'm not saying this to make you feel bad for me or anything. I'm just being honest about why I haven't really felt, on fire for doing a podcast lately. And it's just, I don't know. I have a bunch of ideas, but sometimes it's like it's just so overwhelming, some ideas to do, and I just know that each one of those ideas would be a whole podcast, and each podcast would take a long time to do, partially because I'm kind of a perfectionist, and also because I would have to write a lot. I'd have to do a lot of extra research and stuff that I don't have a lot of time for. It just seems like it'll take up, to do a really good podcast the way I dream of, which I always kind of dreamed of each podcast being like a small kind of documentary. Unfortunately, it turns more from a documentary into more of me just babbling on about the news of the world and crap going on in my life or whatever. But in my head, it sounds great to do a show that feels like more of a small documentary each episode. Originally, that's kind of what I wanted. But obviously, it's not that. So whatever this is what it is, I guess. But I'm back after like 4 months now, and it's just kind of, I just decided, I don't want to just leave the show and, just end it abruptly and just have nothing, just no reason or anything. Just this guy disappeared and he's not doing a show no more, So I'm not ending the show. I just feel drained sometimes, and I don't know. I do struggle with depression and confidence even sometimes. I mean, like I said, I'm just being honest. As a Christian, I'm not perfect, and I really struggle with that sometimes, and I feel like, I look for fellowship, and there isn't any sometimes, and it's like, there's people on the internet, but they're not physically in your life, so you feel like you're just like, well, why even bother, they're not going to be there. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't want to take up the whole show with all this this endless blabbering about me and why I didn't do the show for 4 months and all that stuff. So I'm just going to get right to it. And just here's something I'll throw out for the future. I have an idea for certain episodes, not every episode, but some episodes of Fringianity will be different kinds of episodes than the one you're like listening to right now. This is like the main type of episodes. I'm going to try something coming up here. I don't know how soon I'm going to try it, but here's a little teaser of what I want to do. Okay, imagine a New World Order look into the near future where there's a short story where it talks about something that that probably will happen in the near future, judging by the tech that's coming out in the world today. And it's kind of like a Twilight Zone episode. And the episodes are not going to be uplifting and positive a lot of the times because it's supposed to be, it's supposed to make you think of yourself in that position, in that time in the future, where you might have to make some hard choices. And that's the point of each little story. And it'll just be me, babbling on about from the point of view of a person in the near future doing a certain thing, and how would they react to that situation. And each one of those short little stories might not end happy, like I said, but it will end realistic by judging by the tech and the system that's coming, the beast system that's coming. And it will make the listener then have to put themselves in their shoes and go, how would I react in that situation? So it'll be like short stories. Because I have a bunch of these little short story ideas, and I don't know, I'm sure somebody will steal my stories or something if they're good enough. I don't know. But I figured I'm just going to try it. But that's coming up in the near future. I'm going to start immediately working on an episode for that. I might even have one of those short stories on the next episode 70. So just letting you know that's kind of one of the ideas I have for the future of this show, okay? So that being said, let's get to the show.
He's rich and powerful. Why shouldn't he have the authority to spy on all of us from his ivory Microsoft tower? The Daily Mail reports Microsoft's Bill Gates is backing a startup that will provide live and unfiltered high-definition footage of every inch of Earth. The startup, Earth Now, plans to launch 500 satellites to cover Earth's atmosphere in Big Brother real-time video surveillance. Sounds reasonable, right? Humanity wasn't using its privacy anyway. As Gizmodo reports, the company's goal is to make money selling its service to government and enterprise clients, and that's kind of terrifying. Sure, governments have their own individual satellite operations, but the scale of what Earth Now is promising is jaw-dropping. Who better to calm worries and work through regulatory hurdles than the world's most prolific philanthropist? He wouldn't do anything immoral with that tech, would he?
I funded a disease modeling group that uses computer simulation, and that work has been phenomenal in helping us target our polio eradication resources. And what we showed is that the force of infection because of modern transport, which compared to 1918 is over 50 times as great. And so if you get something like a flu and you look at that map of how within days it's basically in all urban centers of the entire globe, that is very eye-opening. That didn't happen with Spanish flu in the past.
Would it be better not to lay off those 10 teachers and to make that trade-off in medical costs? But that's called the death panel, and you're not supposed to have that discussion.
This equation has 4 factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to 0, and that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra.
Earth Now website details the mission statement, saying, "The Earth is our one and only home, and human activity resides in almost every corner. As our civilization advances, and as we put increasing pressure on Earth's resources, we all share in the responsibility of caring for and maintaining our home. One way for each of us to better understand the health of our planet is to see it for ourselves. At Earth Now, we are creating the means for you to instantly see almost anywhere on Earth in true real time, giving you a live and unfiltered view of our planet. Our aim is for you to experience Earth's beauty and its fragility and to recognize the importance of being good stewards of our world. Via a constellation of advanced imaging satellites, Earth Now will deliver an unprecedented and highly valuable user experience, continuous real-time video of the Earth enhanced by machine intelligence. The elite must have watch over their subjects as the technocracy draws nearer. As MarketWatch reported, the UK-based House of Commons Library said this month that if current trends continue, the richest 1% will control nearly 66% of the world's money by 2030. Based on 6% annual growth in wealth, they would hold assets worth approximately $305 trillion, up from $140 trillion today, The Guardian reported. This follows a report released earlier this year by Oxfam, which said that just 8 billionaires have as much wealth as 3.6 billion people, the poorest half of the world. The Fourth Amendment is surely facing the executioner. John Bound reporting for Info.
The eye in the sky is watching you, and it's not God, it's Satan, actually. Of course, I'm not talking about, of course, God is watching you, but Satan is trying to put his throne above God, of course, as usual, and he's trying to be the eye in the sky, the eye of Sauron, the eye of, whatever, the eye in the pyramid, whatever you want to call it, whatever way you want to view it, however you want to see it. It's basically Satan building a foundation that's similar to the one that is in heaven. And he's basically trying to copy every single step that God has made and do his own version of it. So he can watch you, he can make you feel, anything that you're doing on the internet, he knows about it. He knows about everything. He's watching you, and someday he might just throw everything that you do, accuse you, just like he does in heaven. He accuses the brethren both day and night in heaven, and he's going to use all this data, all this big data, against the people who, use electronic devices and all that stuff. And now through the use of smart TVs and smart everything, smart homes, smart cities, all these smart everything, they're going to have their way. And in the near future, this is clearly going to be a problem. I mean, China has a social network system where you might not be able, judging by your social status on the social network or whatever thing that they have over there, you might not be, it's basically a credit system, the way I understand it, to where you can't get certain jobs. You're probably not going to be able to be certain friends with certain people. You're frowned upon because of, certain things are frowned upon. You're not allowed to do certain things. And if you did do one of those things, you got a score. And if your score is low, then other people are going to see that score and they're not going to want to give you jobs, or you're not going to be able to use the train, to get to work, or you're not going to be able to do certain things, and after a while it sounds like you'll just be a bum. And that's kind of scary, but that's the system that is really being pushed by the New World Order. And that's the kind of stuff that we're going to see in the near future, is your Facebook status, the things that you post, the things that you say on Facebook, will basically be, I don't know if they'll be allowed, but whatever you do on Facebook will have a number granted to it and a score, I guess. So if you get an F for, you're saying something, just say against the leader of the nation or against the people in charge, you might be given an F or whatever, and or a 0 or whatever, a status, and you might not be able to live the way you're at the same level as everybody else. And even your friends might not want to be friends with you because of, well, he posted this and I kind of agree with it, but I really want to keep my job, so I don't want to really, shake up the boat or anything, so I better just follow along with the system. And that's the beast system. That's what this is. The whole thing is being built as a beast system. And this, thing that Bill Gates is really interested in, having eyes on the whole earth in high definition, consistently all the time, is just one little part of it. That's just a little piece. That's not even a big part of it. And it's just, a lot of people say when Trump got in office, suddenly, the New World Order, he's fighting the New World Order. He's trying to beat the New World Order. The problem is, I don't think he's Jesus, for one, and I don't think he's anybody who's going to save you, for two. And the third thing is very important, is as soon as he got into office, everybody went back to sleep. And now we look around and we're like, wow, these liberals, they really are trying to take away your guns. They're really trying to take away all your rights. They're trying to silence you. They're censoring the internet. All this stuff is going on. And yet, nobody did anything. Trump might honestly be trying to do something in there, but he's one man. And, everybody just went back to sitting on their hands and watching must-watch TV. It's really sad how this happened, but it's really getting tiring. I don't expect here's how I see it, okay? I don't think Christians should rise up against the government and start shooting people and start, this resistance and being the militias and all this stuff. And I know that's going to be shocking to some people, but I don't believe that Christians are supposed to be, I'll put it this way. Christians are not supposed to have a 7-mountain mandate. They're not supposed to, rule over every little thing, even government. Christians are supposed to be talking to people in the streets and telling them about Jesus Christ, pointing them to Jesus Christ, who is the only way into heaven, the only Savior there is. There's nothing else. Despite what the Pope says, despite what all these TV, evangelists or whatever they are, speakers on TV are saying, it's all about leading people to Jesus. Jesus will take care of it. And yes, Christians will face persecution. And the whole world will hate them because Jesus warned us. But we're supposed to turn the other cheek, give them the other cheek. If they slap one, turn it and give it the other one, and give them your if they go to take something from you, give them all of it, I'm not saying this is a hard subject because I can already hear people say, well, that's not right. Well, I'm just saying that Jesus did say to pray for your enemies and wish well upon them. He's in other words, if you're treating your enemy well, even if they're treating you bad, it's not about, oh yeah, you look like a fool to your enemy. No. Who's around, who's watching you get treated that way by your enemy? That person might be saying, why are they treating that man so cruel? He's treating them nicely. That person watching could be a potential Christian in the future. Even if they're chopping your head off and you're saying a prayer for them as they're getting ready to chop your head off, and somebody is a spectator seeing this, they might go, wow, Christians have something major I mean, they have something. There's more to a Christian than just, praise Jesus repetitively, If somebody was to witness that, they might change their whole life because they saw you giving a good witness. You were being a good ambassador for Jesus. Even though you died doing it, it might mean that somebody else picks up a Bible after that. You never know. So I don't think Christians are supposed to, gang up on the government and you seek revenge and all this stuff, because last I checked, Jesus is the one who's going to avenge us. So we already know that he wins in the end. That's a good thing. I know some people think that I don't ever talk about that or I don't ever say that, but I do believe that. I don't know if I've said it enough on this show, but whatever. So, getting back to the point, because I went off on a tangent there, basically, this Bill Gates is really pushing a whole depopulation agenda and all that. And I've talked about that many, many times on this show, I think. So I kind of beat that into the ground. But there's a different thing that I want to talk about on this episode, is something I've recently started to learn about. And thanks to the show, Josh Tolley show. That's a show, podcast, and it's also I think it's a radio show that's pretty popular. And he has a book out, Evangelpreneur or whatever. It's about being a Christian and holding your own business and stuff, and all kinds of stuff like that. But he talks about on his show quite a bit. It comes up. It's not like a main topic on the show, but it comes up quite a bit on his show, that there is a decline in human population right now going on. And you wouldn't know that by what you hear in any other form of media, because the media, basically everyone talks about, that there's too many people. There's just too many people. And of course, the people are saying it are usually inner city people, of course. They don't go out into the countryside and see, fields for miles and miles and miles, and there's nobody there, or just land that's just been sitting there forever. And I'm not talking about like farmland that's just, being used for crops. I'm talking about just places that are just nobody lives there. There's plenty of room. And the further out away from the city you get, the more space there is. But in the inner city, everyone thinks it's an overpopulation because they all huddle together. And that's where diseases are going to break out. So I guess Bill Gates is probably right about that. Unfortunately, I think that he might be helping that agenda come along. But it's just kind of strange how Josh Tolley mentioned this human decline instead of human population, like overpopulation. And then when he mentioned it, it kind of did... it woke me up right away, because I'm like, yeah, that's true. Because what he said is he deals with a lot of people, and he always asks them, how many kids did you sell a house to or whatever recently, or something like that. He'll ask, I shouldn't say kids, families with more than one kid or two kids or three kids, and the people will say, oh yeah, I do that all the time. And then they'll think about it, and then they'll say, you know what? I haven't sold a house to a family in a long time. It's always husband and wife, or husband and wife maybe with one kid. But there's never 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, So do the math on that. If that happens a lot, which is what he's saying it's everywhere. And there's even proof. In certain states, they're giving land away for free, or they're giving extra, they're trying to get you to move there because they're getting lesser and lesser population. And that's really interesting. So there's like states that are literally offering, benefits or whatever for you to move there because there's just nobody, to buy the stuff there to keep that towns and businesses going. There's just not enough people because people are not having enough kids. And that's really interesting. And you won't hear this on the mainstream media, because the mainstream media is just sitting there talking about, blah, blah, there's overpopulation, there's too much this, that, and the other thing. And they're always, supporting abortion, which at this point, I don't think, even China is going away from, they actually have a shortage of women now, because of they kept on stopping women from having children, especially having girls, for a long time. So now China's starting to run into problems. And so their population is kind of starting to come to a standstill, and then it will be declining very quickly after that, because they're going to have a lot of kids to make up for that real soon here. And Japan has this problem. Russia has this problem. America has this problem, and there's a lot of other countries that has this decline in population problem right now. These countries are really declining in population, but no one talks about it. That's the problem. Because I did a little research into this. I have look up on YouTube, the decline in population, or there's just different ways that they say it, but and listen to the Josh Tolley show. You'll hear him say it 1 or 2 times in a week or something, it seems like. He's been talking about it a lot lately. But it's just very interesting, and it's something that people should really look at. And I've always thought that, as the earth grows, or as the population grows, it seems like God made the earth get bigger. This is going to sound very strange, but the earth was smaller originally, and then it got bigger. And if you look at the continents, how they drifted, how they moved apart, they all kind of fit together as a puzzle. Okay? Well, if they all fit together like a puzzle, that means I don't think they're drifting, like floating islands. No, when the ground moved, it grew, like it was like the magma in the earth or whatever became bigger, so it made the actual dirt in the surface, which is what we live on, further apart. So it made it bigger. The planet got bigger. And then there was more of a bigger population over time after that. So it's almost like God knew that there would be a greater population in the end times, so that it's like the planet was made bigger. Of course, there was more water, but there's plenty of land, okay? There's just plenty of empty land. Out where I live, there's plenty of empty land. I don't see why people are so huddled together in the cities. But the problem is the depopulation agenda is going to want to kill a lot of people. And Bill Gates admits it himself that he wants to get population down to near zero. And, in the Georgia Guidestones, I brought that up 1,000 times. There, 500 million is what the human population should be. So that's a lot lower than where we're at now. So, and I don't even know really what the population is now. Because everything we hear is from a media source or something. So I don't even trust them. So I don't even know if I'm being told the truth anymore. Some of the stuff that I hear might not even be real, because we can question a lot of things that we see on the news nowadays, and people do. So there is that. But Bill Gates has recently said something about he has a fear that people might die from like a plague or whatever real soon. Here, I'll play the clip.
Bill Gates thinks there's a new flu epidemic lurking just around the corner, and he says we're unprepared for it. The billionaire philanthropist warned Friday that there is a significant probability of a large and lethal modern-day pandemic occurring in our lifetimes. Gates made the comments while speaking at the Massachusetts Medical Society and the New England Journal of Medicine. Gates said there's a potential new flu that could wipe out as many as 33 million people worldwide in a matter of just 6 months. He warned that the world, and the United States in particular, are falling behind in pandemic preparedness.
So there's 33 million. First off, that number, Freemasonry, 33. Whenever I hear the word 33 in the news, it's like that's really interesting. They couldn't say 33 point whatever percent or, 33 point whatever million. It's just 33 million. So that right there makes me wonder, that has my conspiracy tentacles going up right there. It's like, what the heck is that all about? And it's Bill Gates, of course, so I already don't trust him because he's going over to Africa with his racist attitude and, oh yeah, we got to vaccinate all these, poor black people. Come on, man. Why did you choose poor African people who can't even get water? Why don't you go over there with water and stop sticking needles in these people? Stop using them for as little test rats for your vaccines and then having them turn up with autism or worse, So anyway, and he's being sued by some countries because of his vaccine thing that he keeps pushing. He always goes to third world countries and starts pushing these vaccines and everything, and then things go bad. So the people don't like him because they're scared of him because they know that. And, it's totally cool, totally normal if Bill Gates does it because, he's a great guy. Well, here's another little thing that I found out about that's very interesting. There's a website, what's it called? I'm looking at it right now. Anyway, it's cchfreedom.org. Okay? That's C as in cat, C as in cat, H as in house, freedom, the word freedom, it's all one thing, .org. Okay, the reason I point this website out is because it's about how the states are pricking basically babies' feet or whatever. They're getting the baby's blood when they're born. Okay, maybe sounds normal to you. Okay, but here's the thing. They're keeping the baby's DNA for years, maybe even forever. And this has been happening for a while. And parents are being shocked to find out that these hospitals are selling this DNA to military and government groups. Yeah. So go to that website and you'll be able to read about some of this stuff. I mean, the first thing it says is most parents are completely stunned when they find out their child's blood is being held by the state. They have no recollection and they think it's unlawful. And there are people actually suing states and stuff because of they're keeping their DNA. And they're literally keeping these children's DNA. And oh, there it is. There's St. Paul, Minnesota. There's my state, our wonderful state. So anyway, there's a little thing about that in there. But I'm just looking at that, so that's something to look up. And just keep in mind that anytime you go to the hospital nowadays, I have a feeling that they're keeping DNA. They're keeping records of everything nowadays. Everything is being documented. Your face is being scanned at Walmart. Every single thing is being collected. Data, big data, is being collected on massive levels. And it's being fed into this global brain that they're trying to build. And what's going to happen eventually is everybody is going to be recognized by the image of the beast, this global brain or this whatever it is, this beast system. It's going to become aware someday, and it's going to recognize everyone, and it's going to know everything about you, everything you've ever done on the internet, everything to do with everything. And that's scary. And that is when people are going to either go, oh, this thing knows all my secrets, so I better kneel before it. Or they're going to just flee into the woods. Unfortunately, by that point, there will be attack drones that have AI systems in them that are sent out to gun you down because you're one of the resistance. And Christians will be in that group. So it's gonna be a dark future here, and that's just something I wanted to point out because all of this stuff is coming. It's all tied together in some way, and it's all culminating into what we find in the book of Revelation. It's all in there. The mark of the beast is going to be a part of it. And I believe the blockchain is going to be part of how the mark of the beast is enabled. And, all this stuff it's just one big giant picture. And all the puzzle pieces are starting to really come together in place so you can actually start to see this giant grid of overwhelming power that these people are getting. So, I don't know how it's going to play out, but I just know that each week when I hear about different news stories or different things about this system that's being set up around us, it's like people are getting put out of work by robots, basically, or computer systems. And like, you go to Walmart, there's less employees, and there's a bunch of machines. You're supposed to scan your own stuff yourself, and they got cameras aimed right at you, like snapping pictures. You go down the baby aisle, snapping pictures. You walk by the makeup aisle, snapping pictures. You walk into the men's shaving, snapping pictures. You walk into the toy aisle, they got this thing snapping pictures. It's really, really over the top. And nobody, people go to Walmart all the time and they don't ever, bring this up. It seems like I don't ever see anybody bringing this up. And I don't even know how I got started on Walmart. I'm just saying that it's right in your face. It's everywhere and you don't even notice it. The spy grid and all of this data, all this information is being taken and sold. They sell this data to military contractors, to big data brokers, to people, who want to know what you're buying. They want to know how to have a commercial just for you. It's all this stuff is adding up. And this data is being stored and put away. And it's not just the NSA that's doing it. It's everybody. It's just this whole grid. It's just like in Revelation. I'm seeing Revelation, literally. The pictures coming together too well. And yeah, it's really depressing. And it is scary. I'll admit all of that. And, it's really even scary. What's scarier is the fact that most of us are probably not ready to meet Jesus if we're living in Revelation. That's the scariest part. I can't say that I honestly don't think of the day, when I meet him. God, I hope to God he doesn't say, "Turn from me, I never knew you." That's something that would scare me. You really want to get right with Jesus, So all of this being said, it's not just to, make you scared and feel like you're living in dystopian hell that's never going to be repaired, because the world is going to be destroyed. Jesus even admits, he says the world is dying. It will pass away, and there will be a new heaven and a new earth. All of this is going to pass away. I don't know why people are thinking that they're going to build something that's somehow going to last through all that, because it's not. And that includes all of the greatest churches, temples, and all that stuff. That's not going to last either. Mountains will melt when Christ arrives. That's how much power. The earth is going to be completely erased and rebuilt. So the most important thing we really need to think about is not, yes, there's a depopulation agenda and people are already on the decline. But the thing did Jesus not say? He said that if it wasn't for his return, there would be no flesh left alive or whatever. I'm quoting something that I don't have in front of me, so I'm probably getting it wrong. But he says there will not be any flesh left alive if not for him cutting the time short. In other words, he cuts it shorter. He comes soon, or he comes faster than it will to take out. I don't know. I'm messing it up. But in other words, people will be dying. And also, I'm going to be getting into, human chimeras and DNA splicing and CRISPR-Cas9 and all that stuff coming up soon, because that's going to play into this majorly too, because we're going into the days of Noah. You know, he said, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. So that's another major thing that we're going to start to see, and we're already starting to see it. There's already starting to become gray lines in between. Is that good or bad? I don't know, you know, because it could make me see, but it also sounds like it changes your human DNA. So if your DNA gets changed, do you find a place in heaven or do you find a place in hell? Because, you know, God created you in his image. Now, if your image, your DNA, is changed, does that mean that you don't end up in heaven? Because that sounds very much like the type of stuff that might have been happening in Noah's time before the flood. And that's the reason why the flood happened, is because they were corrupting the earth. They were corrupting everything on the earth, even the animals. So what are we doing now? Oh, we're getting ready to, well, we are, I shouldn't say we're getting ready. We are corrupting the earth. We're making, bees are dying, we're making genetically altered corn. I mean, we have Monsanto, all this stuff. So it's just getting very scary, and it's a very weird world we live in, and it's going to get weirder as time progresses. It's just something to think about, and some of those short stories I was talking about at the beginning of the show will address some of these situations I just mentioned in all of this. Like, you'll deal with something that is happening, you know, that imagine like cloning, and imagine 20 years from now what that would be like. And it might be a person dealing with something like that in a story, you know, and what's the moral, ethical procedure, and how would you deal with that, you know? So that's just one of my little theories. That might not be the first story you see or anything like that, but I'm just saying that there's going to be a lot of bizarre stuff happening from now until when Christ returns, and it's only going to get weirder. And you see it every day in the news. News is getting weirder and weirder and weirder and more bizarre and just unreal. Like, you're just like, that can't be real. But you're finding out it is real. It's just, and also you're getting, you know, deceived consistently, just like the Bible says. There's going to be great deception. And the news is really working on that really well. I mean, they're checking that box all the way down. So we're getting just, everything's just getting, no one knows what's right and what's real and what's wrong. And, you know, it's just getting confusing. And that's the reason why we need Jesus. And I don't know, I'm not a great speaker. I'm not even a great Christian. I'm just a man that needs Jesus, and I'm imperfect, and I mean, that's just the way it is. But this stuff is something that I always think about, and I just really want to point out to people, because they need to be ready for this when they have to make a decision. You have to make a decision. Are you going to just keep using the internet when they require you to take a mark to use it? Are you going to keep using, you know, money when they tell you you have to put a chip in your hand? You're going to have to decide. Are you going to take God, just completely take faith in God and just go out into the wilderness? Or are you going to go with the worldly system? So we're being, you know, tested here. So we want to pass the test. Even if I die of starvation, I'd rather die of starvation than to find out that I am going to be eternally burned alive in the lake of fire. Well, anyway, that's pretty much all I have for the show this time around. So thank you for listening. If you like this show, please share it with your friends. Promote it as much as possible before the internet censors us and takes down all of our content. Also check out the Fringianity Podcast Facebook group and page. New shows will be posted there, as well as show images, so check that out too. That's all for this show, so thank you very much for listening, and God bless.